get by. It resides between my eyes. Walk through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Weisz.
Dr. Jeremy Weisz here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Liana Ling of AdSkills.com and PowerUpStrategy.com. And Liana, before I formally introduce you, I like to point out other episodes people should check out of the podcast. Now, since you are now the owner and CEO of AdSkills, people can check out the past episode I did with actually Justin Brooke, who's the original founder of AdSkills. And it was very fascinating there. Also, since you are a multiple agency owner and basically help agency owners train with AdSkills now, Jason Swank is a great episode. I did 2 episodes with him. He talked about how he built his first agency to over 8 figures and sold it. And then now he runs a group for agency owners. And one of the things he does is they're buying up agencies. And so he talks about valuations and things like that. Todd Taskey also, he has the Second Bite podcast and helps pair agencies with private equity and the Second Bite, because sometimes the agencies he sells make more on the Second Bite than they do on the first when private equity sells. And there's a good one with Adee Clevitt, who is a systems person. She basically is a done-for-you SOP service. And that episode we geeked out on productivity tools, software is what we like to use to stay productive and be more efficient. So check those out and many more on InspiredInsider.com. And this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their dream 100 relationships and partnerships. And Liana is actually going to share her strategies and how she connects with people and how she networks, which is going to be fascinating. And basically, Rise 25, we do that all by helping you run your podcast. We're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the strategy, the accountability, and the full production execution. Liana, we call ourselves the magic elves that work in the background to make it look easy for the host and the company. For me, the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I've found no better way over the past decade to profile the people and companies I most admire and share with the world what they're working on. So if you've thought about podcasting, you should. If you have questions, go to rise25.com, and you can always email us at support@rise25.com. And I'm excited to introduce Liana Ling. Now, we met because of 2 people, Alex McCarsky and Joe Foley, and they were all at a Perry Marshall event in Chicago, and we all had dinner. And I fortunate to sit across from you, Liana, and just by chance, and we had a great long conversation at dinner. And here we are. So Liana Ling is CEO and founder of PowerUp Strategy. PowerUp Strategy, they do media buying for companies. They provide expertise on managing ROI-focused campaigns. When we're talking Facebook, Google, Instagram, Pinterest, probably anywhere else you can buy ads. She's also owner and CEO of AdSkills. And we'll talk about kind of the transition from, being an AdSkills student to coaching in AdSkills to owning AdSkills. And we mentioned it was founded by Justin Brooke. They help train media buyers. They have when anyone talks about, hey, how should I train my team or how should I train myself? I've seen just threads of people just say AdSkills, check out AdSkills. And that's what people love. So Liana has an interesting background. She has over a decade of experience in this digital marketing space. But she's a former attorney. So she brings a unique perspective to the world of digital marketing. And she's been recognized as one of the top Facebook ad buyers globally. And she consistently focuses on ROI for clients. So Liana, thanks for joining me.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
So let's start off, just talk about PowerUp Strategy, what you do, and then we'll talk about, you give a little bit of a summary of what AdSkills does.
Sure. So with my agency, PowerUp Strategy, I work mainly with visionary business owners who have online businesses, and it tends to be info product or coaching. And I like to say that, I help them get as many clients as they want, period. And most of the time we're doing that through the paid media channels there. And I've been fortunate to meet and work with some amazing entrepreneurs throughout the years, just, kind of doing that and supporting them.
And then AdSkills. How would you describe AdSkills?
Yes. Well, AdSkills is very close to my heart. AdSkills is the place to be if you want to learn how to drive traffic, mainly paid traffic. We are starting to cover more organic traffic as well, because I think that's important. But if you want to be a media buyer, or you are a media buyer or a media buyer agency and you want to get better, AdSkills is a place to be to level up your skills inside of there and grow.
Give me a rapid fire of your agency journey a little bit, and maybe just start off with the lawyer piece and then take me through, because I know you owned a agency through a franchise and then you started your own agency. Take me just through your journey a little bit.
Sure. So I started off my professional life as a litigation and corporate lawyer. And once I had made my way into in-house, which is kind of like retirement, I guess, for some lawyers, that's what they call it, right? I was in-house counsel at TD Bank. And after I had my second child, I was made redundant there. So that's a whole other probably episode we could get into. But after I went there, I realized that I really was this frustrated entrepreneur inside of me. And for me, the best way to get into that was through a franchise. It was through somebody that I knew through TD Bank who matches people up with franchises. So I actually bought a digital marketing franchise to start off with, because I knew nothing. I did not know how to sell. Like, I knew nothing. I didn't know about marketing. I didn't know how to sell anything. So that was the best choice for me. And I like to think that I outgrew the franchise, to be frank. And I wanted more. And that's when I started venturing more out into being like a hired gun CMO. I kind of did that. I did SEO, I did web design, I did all these different things until I figured out what I was really, really good at. And I ended up doing a lot more of paid media on social media, especially with Facebook. And that's how I found my way into Justin Brook and AdSkills sphere, where, just some of the golden nuggets that I learned specifically from Justin just kind of catapulted me to the next level, really changed my life.
What was some of your, we'll go back because I want to hear about the franchise a little bit and what you liked, what you thought needed improvement. But talk about the AdSkills journey for a second. You came in, what were some of the things that were interesting to you from a course perspective?
Sure. So I think it's also important to know why I went into there, because that really frames my entire focus. I'd actually not been doing, I took a break from doing ads, and my friend David Schloss says, like, you're good at this, you should just do it again. Knowing I was kind of going through this identity crisis. So I purposely try and learn from the best in the world that I can get access to. And I was like, who's this dude, Justin Brook? I keep hearing like he trained Molly Pittman, he trained all these other people. Who is he? Because I didn't know who he was. And that's how I found him. And he had a certification course where you can get certified. And to me, what was great at the time was it included, I can't remember how many days, but it was a certain number of days where you could have access directly to him. Like, you could just DM him. And that was, like, to me, that was worth it. So I jumped into there, and that's what I loved about it. You're going through all the course material in there. And like, I wasn't a newbie coming in, but I know that there's always like a little golden nugget, right? That can make all the difference. And that's what I liked about Justin's stuff, because he was sharing. It didn't feel like he was holding anything back. It wasn't like, hey, here's how to do like 80% of it, but the 20% you got to pay even more to do something else. He just gave everything. And then he kind of berated us and said, hey, nobody's DMing me, because I was pretty intimidated. I didn't know what to do. So I just started DMing him.
If you're intimidated as a litigator, I don't know. I don't know.
He's got quite the presence, right? He's got quite the presence. And so I was like, wow, what am I going to say? So I just started sending him stuff that I've been working on. I thought, oh, okay, like I have a lot to learn. And he said to me, these are really, really good results. So again, I had no basis for comparison. And that's how it started. I just asked him questions. I asked, how can I get better? And I really took advantage of everything that was in there. I hadn't done that before. I was one of those, when we just buy stuff and we'll look in, oh, okay, this looks interesting. And then it just goes on your digital shelf. This one, I took advantage of everything in there. And I think I even got it on a scholarship, because I said, hey, I'm in Canada. Is there any way I could pay, on a longer payment plan? And they're like, yes. So that's how it started. I actually bought it twice. So I finished the program once, And then they offered it again. And the second time they offered it, they also included this pipeline of leads coming in. And me having this lead gen background, I know what it costs to get leads for B2B. So that to me was the no-brainer. And I got like another session of just being able to DM Justin. And so I took full advantage of all of that as well. So I went through it twice.
Wow. And then you became a coach.
I did, but it wasn't just like that, right? It wasn't just like that. One of the things that I have been doing for many, many years is every single day I set aside about 10 to 15 minutes and I contribute in certain groups. And I figured out how many I could handle at any time. It's basically like 3, maybe 4, but to me, it's more 3. And what I do is I go in there and I see if I can add value by answering questions or sharing something. And then I also make sure I ask questions. So I think a lot of people go into online communities and think, oh, I'm just going to answer a ton of questions. But asking questions also shows people what you're working on. And I also just think, and it makes you more visible. And the people running it, they love when people ask questions. So why wouldn't you do that, right? So I had figured out through trial and error that my clients tend to be in the paid communities. So I will on purpose join certain communities, but I also want to make sure they're not connected. So this is something I learned when I was working with Louis Schiff at Inc. Business Owners Council. Was he said, you have to treat your network like your portfolio. You want to have a diversity of it, and you don't want to be hanging out with only with your high school friends. So I joined different communities and made sure that they were very different. And as a consequence of that, just people think that I'm really connected because I know people from different worlds and I connect them. So that was my mindset going into AdSkills. And I just kept showing up every single day. And over time, right? This is also, if you want to get closer to somebody running the community, Justin and Shauna noticed. They're like, oh, you're here, you're adding value. People seem to like you. And at first they invited me to participate in something and just kind of, speak and share. And it went really well. And every time they asked me to do something, Justin told me they got a ton of just positive responses from people. So that's how I eventually became a coach in AdSkills. They actually ended up hiring me to run the whole pro program. He wanted me to be the face of the pro program because Justin didn't have the bandwidth to do that. And like he says, I was one of the only people where I just kept showing up, but also that I had always had such great positive, feedback whenever I would just do anything there. So he felt it was a really good fit. And that's how I became a coach inside of the AdSkills community. By the way, I've done something similar in other communities I've been in too, where I became a coach or I became a mentor. Again, just because I showed up and delivered value and just really tried to kind of elevate the community in any way I could.
I love what you said, Liana, about it, kind of in the when you first joined, you had a student mindset, even though you had experience, but you had a student mindset. You're like, there's always something to learn. There's going to be a gem in anything, and I'm going to learn something. And your process for networking sounds like, really your goal is to add value. That's it. You want to choose a couple groups and you set a time aside every single day to do that. And you do that by adding value to people, answering, but asking questions as well. And people do take notice of that. So that's great. Now back to, you're doing this while you're running your agency as well.
Yes.
So how do you segment your day? Talk about your schedule a little bit.
Sure. I think you need to figure out when you're most productive as well. So for me, I actually found that it was either later at night or earlier in the morning because if I have to do it in the middle of the day, it's just not going to happen. Right. So I have it for me right now. I struggle with this because I really try hard to be a morning person because I'm not, but the rest of my household is a little bit. But yeah, I try and do it in the morning. And because for me, I found that I'm actually most productive in the morning. So my schedule right now actually is I try and wake up around 5. I know it sounds crazy, but I try and wake up around 5 because for the last year, again, this is a whole other story, but for the last year, my husband and I walk we're up to about almost 5 miles now every single day. And I found the best time to do that is in the morning, especially when it's hot outside. So that's the best time to do it. And I also find that it kind of gets my day going and nobody's bothering you, like nobody's up. So when I'm done with that, then I can just jump and prepare for my day. And I'll often have that 15 minutes in the morning when I go in because I can see everything that's happening. I can think a little, like it's just, I have space to think, to actually network inside of there. And then the mornings tend to be like dealing with team stuff, dealing with client stuff, like just dealing with stuff that has to happen that day. And I keep my afternoons for things like meetings, recording trainings, attending masterminds, more like kind of more deeper networking type of events. And then I really do try and keep Fridays free to do what I want to do. So what I like to do is I like to interview people on my podcast on Fridays because I love it. But I found that if I do it on other days of the week, it just doesn't work for me. And and I'm now pretty successful about just really almost keeping Fridays pretty clear unless I don't want it to be.
How have you found, balancing running AdSkills with running your agency?
Yeah. So again, I think it's all about what drives you and what's best for you, because for some people, they need to focus on one thing. So I just want to make that really clear that over the years, I figured out what makes me tick and what helps me to perform at a very high level. And with that, I always have to be involved in multiple projects. Like I'm a multi-passionate person. And, even when I was on mat leave, I was like doing a ton of other volunteer projects and things like, because I just needed that for my sanity. And that's what I've learned over the years. So for me, it actually works amazingly well. Like I still can't believe I get to do this as part of my quote unquote job. I just scheduled it all in. Like one of the things I've been using lately is an app called Reclaim because it has, I don't know if it's true AI, but I put in habits, I put in stuff that has to do in there, and I tell it how hard to defend my time. And then when people need to schedule stuff, it just moves stuff around. So I really stick by my calendar and I put stuff in there like this is when I'm doing strategic planning for AdSkills, and this is when I'm doing stuff for, for my agency or this. And then I use automation and I have a team. You mentioned SOPs at the beginning of this. That's like something I love SOPs. So I kind of delegate a lot of things to my team as well. So all that kind of works in harmony so that I can be as productive as possible and still also have, playtime and creative time and things like that. So it may sound like a lot, but it's what works best for me. And I've just found that I just really keep pushing harder and harder of like, how can I get more efficient and how can we run things better? And, and so I just keep getting better and better and better at that. And it just keeps getting easier. It just in terms of like managing my time, I guess I would say.
Liana, talk about maybe apps or software you like. You just mentioned Reclaim app. Mm-hmm. What other apps do you like, whether it's for business or productivity and or software that you use? You mentioned automation, SOPs. What are some of the things you use?
Yeah. So, like I said, I mentioned I use Reclaim for my scheduling link and also for my calendar. I literally live in Slack. I know a lot of people don't love Slack, but I love Slack. I have Slack for all of my teams. The trick with Slack, though, is to have the ground rules set up. So I will check Slack as if like I used to check email certain times of the day, but that's when I would check Slack. So I love Slack. I use Zapier to connect stuff for automations, but I'm actually moving away from that. I'm learning how to use something called n8n.io. It's a little bit more techy, but it's way cheaper than Zapier. And it's also like what a lot of people use in the kind of the AI space. So I'll use that. Another piece of software that I'll use on the ad side is RevealBot. I found it extremely helpful just to help me with it really helps us set the boundaries and helps us, manage campaigns like literally 24/7. So I put my brain into that. I use to chat stuff like a lot. So I use the OpenAI ChatGPT. I also use another software called Magi, MAGAI.co, because it has ChatGPT, it has GPT-4 and has Claude inside of there, but you don't have the restrictions that you have in ChatGPT. So I use both of those like a lot because I talk a lot more to ChatGPT now, in terms of being helping me with a lot of different things. That's like kind of the software that I like deal with almost like every single day. For project management, we use ClickUp. I've just found that ClickUp is like fantastic for just a whole bunch of
We
different
love
things.
ClickUp too. Yeah.
Yeah, and automation. And and then and then for social media, I'm actually more in the native software because I find that that works best. So, I'm in Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and just started in Threads. And so that's kind of what I do there. But
You mentioned AI.
mhm,
And I know you in the world you live in, this comes up over and over. And so I love to talk about the impact of AI
sure.
and talk maybe the good versus the bad.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, so the good part about AI is, I think number one, it's something that is able to handle a massive amount of data and just give us whatever we want from the data. I mean, I think that people just can't get their head around how much it can actually handle and then process, and then what you kind of can get out of it. So that's something that it's just I noticed immediately. The second thing about it is what I find with AI amazing is it's actually bringing it. It may sound kind of a bit woo woo here, but like it really does it can bring your dreams to life. What I mean by that is what I've learned, it's not about the coding and all the technical stuff. To unlock AI, it's all about your imagination. The better you can imagine and the more specific that you can imagine what you want, that's when AI can come in and like it can literally make it real. Like almost anything that I have thought of where I said, oh, I wish I could do this or I wish I could do that. AI can do that. You just have to talk to the right person or find the right tool and do it. And that's how we keep getting to these new breakthroughs every single week or day or hour, even. And that's what I find so exciting about it because it's just limited by your imagination in terms of the problems that you have and like what you need to solve. And so I've been able to solve and improve a lot of things very quickly, with AI. And then I think the third thing is it's enabling us to be better communicators. We can talk about the cons of this, but really what I'm finding is if you can put your ideas into there, some people are just, well, I think a lot of us, we're very poor communicators, right? A lot of problems arise because of communication problems, right? So I find that ChatGPT has been excellent to just take our ideas and take our words and turn them into phrases and styles that people connect with and just you can just communicate much more directly with them. I've done this so many times now, like not just for ads but for my own stuff where people said, oh my gosh, like that story or like that I love that story, I really connected with it. I could never and I'm an English major, like I could never written it right without ChatGPT. So those are the three main things that I love about it.
And then what do you see as some of the cons?
Yeah. So I think some of the cons is, well, what I've been noticing is because it gives you kind of like that instant gratification, that instant hit of solving your problems, because you can go in there and ask it like code questions, like you can ask it almost anything. I think what it's actually doing is robbing us of learning how to figure stuff out. Because I thought about this, I thought, wow, like look at like my son's in high school and he's learning how to use ChatGPT and all these other things, and he's never going to experience like even like pick, I don't know if you remember the days when we didn't have GPS and I had to figure out where to go just from a paper map, right? I would like have to write everything down in my hand or whatever. Where am I going? I'm so lazy now. I just go on GPS. Like we're not using that part of our brain or just like literally figuring out how to fix like some electrical thing in your house or your car, or it's because it's all automated, or just like going through that whole process of problem solving in that way. I think we're going to lose that skill because we can just, it's like Star Trek now, right? You can just ask and then I'll just tell it to you. I'm a little bit, so I'm trying to figure out ways to just keep that part of my brain kind of going. The other thing is, anything also because it's so instant makes people even lazier. You're supposed, like, you're not supposed to take it as gospel. Okay. Like you have to do the research. You should be editing it. You should be adding your own humanity and creativity into it. But, we're kind of going back to the days when everybody just spun articles, right, on the internet. And I think that's what we're going to see. We're just going to see like a ton more garbage out there, which makes it even harder for us who are doing like original content and creative ideas, to stand out from the crowd. But so I think that's there's that. And then it's just adding to the overwhelm. Like we thought MarTech was bad, right? When that was like kind of coming out. And now it's like, this is crazy. Like every hour there's like new SaaS coming out. I can't even keep up with it anymore. Even with all the people I follow, like there's always something new coming up. And it's huge overwhelm right now because that's the stage that we're in. So I've been trying to help people to refocus in terms of just how to choose what you need and how to apply it in your agency. Because otherwise you're going to spend 24/7 just trying out different software.
How should people start in the paid ad space, start to use and make sure they're utilizing AI?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. It's the same approach. Is you have to take a look at, you need to know what your processes are. And then you need to figure out what are your problems or identify. So either what are your problems, like where are you stuck? Where do you have challenges? And then number two, when you have processes, what are things that you're doing manually that are like, you're doing maybe 5 to 10 times repeatedly. And then taking a look at that opportunity to automate and use AI. Because I think they all go together, AI and automation. So you take a look at that inside of your agency and say, okay, well, is there a software or can AI help me with this, either to automate this and or make it better? And if you start from there, then you'll actually improve your agency as opposed to, oh, I spent all day playing with this software and it can do this. But it hasn't helped you. It hasn't helped your team. It's not helping your clients' results. Like it's not really helping your agency. You just played with it, which is fine if that's your playtime. But if you're really trying to improve your agency, improve the efficiency, improve results, I think you have to start from solving problems, which is like basic marketing and kind of basic business building, right?
In your agency journey, one of the things you did was you wanted a proven process, right? So you went out and you thought franchise was the best start. Talk about what was good about that model and maybe what needed improved. Like you said, you outgrew it eventually.
Sure. So I always worked in groups. I always had a job where there was a team and you have your boss there because I was actually terrified to become a sole practitioner as a lawyer. I didn't know how to get clients. And I thought, wow, like, who am I going to talk to? Like, I don't know what I'm doing, right? There's nobody to talk to. And that actually was the biggest driver for me to look at a franchise. It was my fear of being alone and also wanting to replicate that feel of like, oh, if I have something, I can just go down the hallway and talk to a colleague. And that's what the franchise provided for me because the one that I went with, WSI, I found at the time, I noticed that they were very friendly. I didn't hear stories of like, oh, they're stealing my stuff or, stabbing you in the back. They all seemed very, very friendly. Somebody had a podcast actually inside of it. I listened to like all the episodes and they just seemed like, wow, like they seemed just like a very supportive community, especially all the top people in there. And then the second thing was a process because they had sales training. They had everything to support you. It was sort of sold to me as you can just show up, you can pay for appointments. You just have to show up. Right. Of course, not everything is as easy as they say, but I mean, that's what I loved. That's what drew me towards it. And that's why I felt it was a smarter move. Also, the fact that franchises versus going out on business on your own just tends to have a higher success rate. So after by the way, before I do any type of decision, I talk to as many people as possible just to get all different types of opinions. So I that was the prevailing opinion. And then my intuition said, let's do it. So that's what I loved about it. And I spent the first year networking and, reaching out to like who I wanted to connect with so I could learn and I could learn faster. So that's why I loved. I loved that I felt like there was a support there. They gave me training. Like the sales training I got there, I still use today. It has really been life-changing for me to learn all of that. And then just having the marketing training, and they already had a marketplace of suppliers, so I didn't even have to look for them. So I kind of, I cut my teeth there with having all of that support. For me, anyway, this was, I'm a new entrepreneur, so I think I had a lot to learn about the environment that I work best in, and I felt, and again, I don't want to disparage the company, they're still around, and I met some amazing people in there. But I found that over time, it was moving more towards I'm just selling services that the suppliers are handling, and I'm just being a project manager. And I wanted to get my hands dirty, and I also wanted to learn stuff that I was seeing other people doing outside of the franchise that was very interesting to me. At the time, it was stuff like, how to get like 10,000 fans and that kind of stuff. But we weren't really covering that stuff inside of there because they were really more focused on web design and SEO and like Google PPC. So I just felt it just wasn't the right fit for me anymore. So that's when I just started to go more out on my own because I just started learning more and more and more things. And that's why I was outgrowing it because I was learning and I was progressing much more faster with the trainings that I had bought outside of the franchise and just, being more excited about it. So the way the franchise works is you buy for a certain location, right? So I was experimenting kind of outside that location. And then, like I say, I even took like a job as a CMO for a little bit, kind of learning more things. And so I was trying a lot of different things out there before I figured out what I do really well and kind of, refocused what I wanted to do.
So, Liana, for the model of the age of the franchise is more, you find the client and they may have a kind of a network of providers that would provide the service. So you don't need to have to necessarily build a team around the different services. They already have kind of ready-made teams. So you sell it and then you project manage it, or just you communicate and make sure the team is handling it and you're communicating with the end client. So you don't have to, so it helps you so you don't have to build like a huge team up around these services. So you can offer SEO, you can offer web design, or whatever else. And is that accurate?
Yes, that's accurate. The other thing too is it gives you confidence when you're starting out because you can use their case studies, right? You can say, hey, like I'm using their system, I'm using their case studies, and they give you a website. And all. So they take care of all of that. And as a new entrepreneur, like a lot of us feel like we don't have anything. How are we going to sell all this, right? How am I going to get experience? That's what a lot of the newer media buyers come into AdSkills talking about. Like what am I going to do? I don't have anything, So we teach them how to do that. But, back then that was, again, I think a lot of it came out of fear because I'd always been an employee my whole life. So a lot of it just came out of this is what stopped me from panicking at the time.
What did you learn? You said some of the valuable stuff with the sales training, right? And that's basically they train you out for sales. It helps you. It helps the franchise. What did you learn that you still use today from the sales piece?
I use the entire system. So a gentleman named Marvin Email came into there and he did sales training. And I have to tell you, and he'll say this too, I thought he was crazy. I was like, what are you having us do? This is not going to work. And he said, okay, like just lean in here, like, just suspend your disbelief for a weekend. Can you do that? And I'm a systems person. So I listened to him and I went out and I started following the system and it just kept working. So that's why I became a believer.
What's an example where you thought he was crazy? Like, what was he saying that you thought was
the entire system? I just thought was crazy. So I never saw yes, I was a litigator, so I'm not shy, but I never saw myself as a salesperson. So, for example, the first part that he teaches, which I love it today. He calls it Tiger Tools, and it's about how you can build rapport with anybody. And it's based on classical conditioning and really understanding and like doing different things and like giving a gift and there's things that just work because it's psychology. And I was like, that's nuts, right? Like, how is that going to work? Right. And it's like, I feel so stupid doing it. But, so part of it is the G in Tiger is give a gift, because when you give somebody a gift, what are you conditioned to do? Like if I give you a gift, Jeremy, what are you going to do?
Thank you. And I don't know. There's reciprocity there for sure.
Exactly. Right. You're trained to say, so your parents probably trained you to say thank you. And you immediately feel that you have to reciprocate for something. So he's like, bring a little gift. And he goes, it doesn't even matter what it is. Like, just bring something so that they feel that way. And what they're going to give back to you is their time. And also you'll be remembered for that gift rather than a salesperson. So I would bring lottery tickets. I'm like, hey, you want to have a chance to win $5,000 today? Or I would bring coffee cards. Oh, I don't know how you take your coffee. Hey, your next coffee's on me. And it works like crazy. Some people I thought were like going to kick me out because, I was going to all the different offices. Yeah, like one person
great.
hugged me. He's like, this is the best thing that happened to me all day long, right? Another thing that I also thought he was crazy about was compliments. So again, this is about building rapport. And he said, you compliment somebody and it doesn't even have to be true. And I was like, what? And then he proved it. Like every time I do this with somebody, if I give you a compliment, I say, wow, like you look really sharp in that white shirt.
Thank you.
You're smiling right now. And you do look sharp in that white shirt, Jeremy. But you immediately feel good, right? And he said, he says, I used to tell people it has to be genuine, but it really doesn't, because you just make people feel better. And one of the problems in society is most of us don't feel like we don't feel great about ourselves, right? When we look in the mirror, we just see stuff that has to be fixed. So if you can make somebody feel better about themselves, you're almost like healing one of the mental diseases that everybody has. So again, and it helps to build rapport. So he's like a couple of different those kind of tricks there, right? But one, so that I use that all the time. Like I use a whole system. By the way, another thing that works really well for me is he calls it set the agenda. So when you're talking to somebody, the first thing you do is you tell them what you're going to do. And then you have to get agreement, congruency, that you can go ahead with the agenda. And now I do that for every meeting. Okay? And the trick is you have to also let the other person talk first. So let them talk first. And then at the end, part of your agenda is, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So when I start telling them about myself and my agency, I reflect back what they said to me. So they said, like I'm looking for like somebody who's really organized, a go-getter, and like very creative. Instead of saying, like we get all these results for people, I'll talk about how, well, actually the way we work with you, we're very creative, we're very organized, right? And pretty much works every time. So it's really become, and I taught it. I actually paid him to teach me how to teach, this, because I found that my clients needed it, other people need it. And so I still share this whole approach with people to this day because it just works. I've done it where I've like crushed sales records on, just even doing it on the phone.
I found it's funny you say that, Liana. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I had some friends who were raising money for their company, and one person would be at the slide deck, the other person would be asking questions of whoever it was, the VC. And they were, just like you were saying, asking what are they looking for, whatever. And as one person was asking that, the other person was adding that stuff into the slides. So they were delivering on the slides exactly some of the now, not everyone's going to be a fit to work with them, but they were, tailoring it to what the VC was saying, just like you were saying. So you can use it on a lot of different levels. I would love to hear walk us through some of the stuff that you do. Sure. So we can understand better on that end. And there's a couple things I wrote down to talk about. There's in the coaching space, you help a lot of people in the coaching space. There's one that's unique that is a female photography company. And I'd love for you to start there and what you've done with them and how you've helped them.
Sure. So I have, there's a company named Three Boudoir. And it's owned by some friends of mine, Amber McHugh and Joanna. And it's interesting because I know, Jeremy, you're like, what's boudoir? So I love talking about them because it's been a great challenge for me to advertise a boudoir company and stay compliant. Because again, with my legal background, I'm really into compliance, right? So boudoir is actually, it's intimate, kind of sensual sensual photos. And I mean, I looked it up. It's actually from France, when women would take pictures like in their dressing rooms or the private salon. So there is nudity involved, right?
I'm just
And
bringing up
sexy lingerie.
as you're talking here. I'm bringing up the website. I mean, you
Sure.
can see the AdSkills website. You can see Power Up Strategy, and we'll pull it up.
Yeah. So Three Boudoir is, and what I think what people think is like, it's not porn. Okay. So let's just be very clear here. It's not porn. It's not glamour shots. It's a very specific style. But what I love about Three Boudoir is they kind of take it and say, like, this is really about female empowerment. Like, Jeremy, you said, like, who orders this, right? So Three Boudoir is for women only. And women will buy this to, like, maybe surprise their partner. They might buy it as a gift to their partner before they get married. But really, it's about doing it for yourself. It's about, self-love and just really feeling very empowered when you do it, and you're feeling sexy. And Joanna actually used to work at Playboy. And so she also helped train the whole team too on, like, how to teach people how to pose, because they help you with all that. So you don't, it doesn't end up being
see
awkward.
Some of these videos.
Yeah. Right. And we talk about being, a little bit more safer on social media, right? And on the website. So, but you can see, like, they've really expanded. When I first started working with them, it was just in a few cities, but now you can see they're in more than 25 cities. And they've built this incredible team of also, like, female entrepreneurs, women working with them. And they really, like, they really truly believe and live out what, the culture and everything that they do. So so I've actually been running their Facebook ads for years.
So
and
how do
a
you
lot
stay
of it,
compliant, like you were saying?
Exactly, right. Yeah.
With this, how do you balance what's
Yeah.
going on here with compliance?
Yeah. So it's been tough because, you'll see we can't even put up pictures that, other people are putting up on bathing suits, okay? Because it'll get marked as adult. So what we've done is I've gone through and found photos that, they still look sexy, but you're wearing a sweater. Like, so you're clothed. Okay. And it evokes, like, that one at the top there where you just saw with a white sweater. I've used that one in an ad.
Mm-hmm.
I've also used the video of, like, they have a behind the scenes video. Again, it's like very more behind the scenes and you're not seeing poses and stuff like that. I use that as well. So I've figured out where the line is of what we can do. Also, what I love to do too sometimes is I'll take I'll just take, like, a black square and I'll just put, like, a headline on it and, put it in their brand. So it's just text on top of there as well. And we kind of do a little bit like, hey, like, if you want to see more, you have to kind of opt into our email or something, because it's like, it's too hot for Facebook type of stuff. And that's why I recommend people do too. Like, when you have a very high risk area here, you need to go kind of bland. You need to go kind of bland in your email. So in your ads, so that so you don't get shut down. And then it's a bit longer journey, but what you need to do after that is then you can give them the real stuff once they're in once they're in your email list. So I talk about doing this for weight loss as well. Like, get it in, just get it through the door, and then get their email address, and then you can send them all the stuff you want to. You can send them all the before and after pictures you want to, once they're on your email list. I've also done this with messenger ads to a certain extent. So we're also running messenger ads for them as well. Part of it is also to be a little bit more engaged with people. So we're kind of testing, using the landing page versus using Messenger. But Messenger also is a way, I feel like the deeper you go into Messenger, the less risk it ends up being. Like, is somebody from Facebook really going to go through all of that? So you can start to send a little bit more risky stuff in there. I'm still very conservative though in the Messenger. I'd still rather send, like, the hardcore stuff, by email. But I've been working with them for years, and we've been shut down. I think if I recall, maybe twice, but we were fortunately able to get back, and we really haven't had a disapproved ad in, like, over a year now. So.
Talk about
So
the
I'm really
messenger
proud of
ads
that.
for a second. I don't know if you have to hop on another call, if you have another minute or not.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Because you do some, obviously you help a lot of people in the coaching space, and there's stuff you're doing in the coaching lead gen with messenger ads. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Messenger ads. I feel like messenger ads is having a comeback. And what I really like about it is because the number one, I think it's a lot faster to get up and running. So you can run a Messenger ad and you get people into Messenger, and you can use software like ManyChat is one that a lot of people love to use to automate the responses back and forth in there. So you don't need a landing page. You're just doing a message, saying, hey, send a messenger. They kind of go in there and you just start asking them questions back and forth. And as marketers, we know that's just making little mini commitments. But also Messenger ads still have like an insane open rate. Most people on email get like 20-30% open rate, whereas Messenger, it's more like 80 or 90% open rate. So I think a lot of the problems people have nowadays is just obscurity. Like you don't have enough people looking at your message. So why not use something where people are probably opening it? So that's why I really like about that. And we're testing longer ones versus shorter ones. It depends on the campaign. Like if you're going straight to a call, like if you have a sales team, it's probably better just to do it shorter because you've got to get them onto the sales team's calls. We do find it works best though when it's coupled with humans. So do the automation, but make sure you have humans who are really good and savvy on social in Instagram and Facebook, where they're practically reaching out to people. They do not sound like robots. You're sending friendly messages that keep the conversation going so they know how to move them into the sales call. We're testing a little bit about using AI inside of there, but I still feel that you can't quite replicate somebody jumping in and saying like, hey, how's it going? And just having that normal conversation. I don't think we're there yet. So we're finding that that's really the two things you need. If you have automation and you've got humans interacting with people at the same time, it can be quite powerful.
So I have one last question, Liana. And first of all, thank you. Everyone check out AdSkills.com, check out PowerUpStrategy.com to learn more. And I do want to mention that on AdSkills, I always tell everyone to go, not just from a learning perspective, but actually, if you're looking to hire, you can go to the hiring tab and they have an AdSkills matchmaker, and you can actually, browse their certified ad buyers for free. And so I tell a lot of agencies and companies, check out that piece of their website.
Yes. It's called Ad Matchmaker, and David Klein manages that. So it's not just, it's a little service that we have on the side here. David Klein actually manages it with his team. And what happens is this goes into a pool of certified media buyers. And because we have a program where you can come in, and it's a higher level program than our normal membership. And these media buyers go through a lot of different training. They go through a pretty hard test.
Piece.
Yep.
Right here. Okay.
They go through a pretty hard test. And then they get certified, and only the certified people are able to apply for these positions. And we also have somebody who, from the matchmaker side, works directly with your company if you're looking to hire somebody to literally, do the matchmaking there as well. So we've had some really great ways testing out like a different way of pulling people in here and asking about you. Actually, if you go to the hire tab on the website and just go on the lower right-hand side where it says hire an ad buyer, you go there. That's where you want to go in order just to talk about what your needs are. So it's great on both sides. It's great for people looking for media buyers, and it's a wonderful opportunity for people who are not just beginners, but advanced. We get requests for people from all the way from just beginners all the way to are you very, very experienced, and or we're looking for CMOs. And we've had people like Grant Cardone's media team has been hired through here. Entra, Jeff Lerner's, can name some of the bigger companies out there. They've come through and posted jobs and, to hire people from here. So.
Love it. Thanks for sharing that. Last question is mentors. And maybe one thing you learned, I know you mentioned David Schloss, you mentioned Justin Brook, you mentioned Louis Schiff. Any, piece of advice you've gotten from them or takeaways from mentors?
Wow. One of the best pieces of advice is that I still use it to this day. is when I had the privilege of working with Louis Schiff for a couple of different years, and he wrote this book called Business Brilliant. And what was really cool was he was almost like coaching me on stuff that he wrote inside of there. And the advice, there's two pieces of advice that I really took from him on there. One is in his research, he learned that the self-made super successful people they identify as being really good at only one thing. We don't have time to go into it too much, but if you compare that mindset with sort of like the middle class people, they're like, oh, I'm good at all these different things. He said the super successful people know what they're really exceptionally good at, and they figure out a way to make money with that. And then they just surround themselves with people who kind of fill all the holes that you don't need. And that's something that I continually strive towards, is learning what I'm really exceptionally good at and how can I lean into that more and really leverage that in my businesses. And the second thing that he really drilled home with me was how you can use failure as a stepping stone to success, and changing your attitude towards how can you embrace failure like a gift? Because again, the self-made super successful people talk about failure all the time with their inner circle. And I've really challenged my inner circle to do this, and for us to really talk about failure a lot more and how I can build that into the culture of my teams. And I'm forever grateful for him for like kind of learning those things, even though it was tough on sometimes. It was really tough. It's really hard thing to kind of go through and change how you feel about failure. But it's been responsible for a lot of the amazing things that I've been able to do in my life and in my business.
Yeah, I'm the first one to thank you. Everyone, check out powerupstrategy.com, check out AdSkills.com, and thanks, Liana, and we'll see everyone next time.
All right.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like 100 grand.